Good evening. We welcome you to the Scott County Heritage Center Museum tonight. And for those of you that don't know me, I'm Jeannie Noe Carlisle, a local historian and also Secretary of the Preservation Alliance, which is the governing body of the museum here. Our presentation tonight is the third in our series, and it's on Johnson Township. This is in the northeastern part of the county, and each night that I present a program, I think, well, I'm not going to have very much to tell, and then each one gets longer and longer. So I'll try to cut this short when I need to. First thing we need to know is that the 19th state in the United States was Indiana, and that wasn't until 1816. And then our county became a county in 1820 from all of the 5 surrounding counties. Our county is named after Governor Charles Scott. He was a general, and he was a military man, and as far as we know, he never did get to southern Indiana, but he was a governor of Kentucky. Johnson Township was formed in 1867 when Jennings Township was divided. The towns and the communities in Johnson Township are Albion, and this was on a dividing line of Johnson and Jennings, and the county seat had been planned to be moved there from Lexington. It was platted in 1837 by Harper Cochran, but things didn't go the way they had planned, so it never became a very big town, and now it's completely a ghost town. New Frankfort, it was a big town, as we learned last week, until the railroad came through Austin. That really messed it up. But it's now bypassed even off of 256. It used to be that the highway would go through there, but now they bypassed it. As you're driving east on 256, just before you get to New Frankfort, after you pass Witzett's Corner, if you'll look to the right, which would be the south, you'll see where a road used to go through. You can still tell today where the road was. This was platted in 1838, and again, they were hoping that would become the new county seat. Everybody wanted the county seat. But New Frankfort was named after Frankfort, Kentucky, because a lot of the residents came from Kentucky and they wanted to have something named for their home state. Then there's the community of Sunnyside. That is over near where Hardy Lake is now, and there's still an old school building still standing there. And then we have Wooster out on Highway 256. And several years ago, I know Sue Lucas worked real hard to have a sign put up on the highway to show where Wooster was at one time, but again, it is also a ghost town. And then there's Blocher and Holman. It first was named Holman, and then Daniel Blocher, it was named after Daniel Blocher. Sometimes it's called Blocker, but they pronounced it Blocher. And it's on the Lexington and Johnson Township line. We have several pictures and things tonight on Johnson people, houses, and different buildings, and you'll see those all around here. Some of the posters and things on the floor were here from the previous ones, and those are so the ones that weren't here, they could go ahead and see those. But the ones on the tripods here, they would be the ones that you'd want to look at if you've been here to all of the sessions. On the back table, there's a Scott County map that lists all the schools in the various townships in 1942. We have for Johnson Township, Alpha, New Frankfort, Fairview, Sunnyside, and Blocher. There's extra ones there if you want to pick one of those up. Also on the back table is the plats of New Frankfort and Wooster, and it's on 2 different pages, in Albion, and plus all of Johnson Township. Now this is printed small, I know, but I can't find the original to this to make it bigger. But it does have a lot of the landowners listed on this also. And those are back there in the back. Now a little bit about each one of the towns. As I already told you, Albion was supposed to be one of the towns to be the central location in the county so they could become the county seat. And it was a long way to travel to Lexington back then to go to the county seat. I can understand that even though I come from that area. But that took several years before they got it moved, but we'll learn about that next week. Today in what was once Albion are 2 farmhouses and that's about all that's left. New Frankfort, as we learned last week, was the largest of the three and had so many different people. It was established in 1839. The post office by Garrett Davis. He was also the person that platted it in 1838. He was the proprietor of the town as well as the first postmaster. There was a district school for the education of the children in the town. James Stratton was an early teacher there. And in 1842, the New Frankfort Methodist Church was established. And the trustees were Richard McCaslin, John Wiggums, John Green, John Baldwin, George Van Pelt. In 1849, Scott County's oldest Masonic lodge was installed there with John Wiggum Sr. as the first worshipful master. And in 1850, Christian and Baptist churches were started there. To go through New Frankfort today, it's hard to believe this was ever such a large town. By 1850, the population of the town was 223 people. And at one time, there was even talk of moving the county seat there. Again, everybody wanted to get it away from Lexington. They did. But Garrett Davison also had a sawmill and conducted a general store. And that's one thing I've learned while I've been researching is these people that did so much, they didn't just do one job. They had several different irons in the fire. The town's physicians were the brothers of Dr. David Mcclure and Dexter Mcclure, and we talked about them last week also, and they had came to New Frankfort from New York. I just wondered how their accent was. People make fun of my accent now, so I bet you they had an accent. But they soon gained confidence of the people, and they became very successful in their profession. But then when Austin became a town, one of them moved there, the other one then went ahead to New Albany. The general stores that were operated at various times were Bain, Foster, Dryden, Kohler, Richard Stokes, Robert Rankin, Thomas Eubanks, Giles Kelly, Reuben Hofstadt, and I'm sure that's German, and Aaron Shaspinsky. There we are, as we've found out in all the other times, we find the Shaspinskys in several different places in the county. Washington Filson had a pump factory, and John Colvin and Lambert Huff had a chair factory. The chair factories we learned were a big thing. John Howard had come from Ohio, and he manufactured primitive threshing machines. James Colvin of Harlan and Louis Baldwin of Ohio were cabinet makers. Remember last week, Louis Baldwin was the one that was concerned because he was the undertaker. Not enough people had died that winter. They were too healthy. So, poor feller, he'd started out in New Frankfort and goes to Austin, thinks he's going to make a killing on them, and they were living. But the gunsmiths were John Fowler, John Carr, and Philip Golden. Wesley Bishop was a machinist. Thomas Bishop of Kentucky operated the wool carding machine and the Globe Inn, the town's only hotel, while his wife Carolina taught a successful private school. In 1850, George Rankin and Jacob Bates began storekeeping in the new Masonic Hall building, which had been built by Samuel Davis, son of the town's founder. In 1853, they sold out and moved to a new town of Austin. And during the Civil War, 28 citizens of New Frankfort enlisted in the Union Army. John Carr and Mr. Brown were commissioned captains. However, as prosperous as the town of New Frankfort was, it only lived for 20 years. The third of the towns, Wooster, which was platted January the 23rd in 1847 by Stephen Rice and Alfred Hayes and John Cantwell, they also thought it could become the county seat. And all these towns were within a mile apart. Of course, everybody thought they'd make a lot of money if the county seat moved there, so they were all vying for the same thing. But Stephen Rice was a son of Ebenezer Rice, and they had also come to New Frankfort area from New York. Wooster eventually grew into a very flourishing town. They had a post office that was established in 1861, and Alfred Hayes was the first postmaster. The government, though, called it Woostertown because there was already a post office in Indiana named Wooster. There was a district school, number 6 in the town, and an Oddfellows Lodge was established there in 1853. The Methodist Church was organized in 1847 with Alfred Hayes, Stephen and Reuben Rice, George T. Van Pelt, and John Cantwell as the first trustees. F.S. Potts was the minister of the church in 1860. The church building itself dated September 1834, for on that date Abraham and Delilah Baker had owned the land in the northwest corner of Wooster Crossroads. They had deeded 1 acre for the church. There was in the southeast corner of the crossroad a 22-room inn. Now, I thought that was quite a big inn, but it catered to the stage travelers on the Madison Brownstown State Road, which had been made a state road in 1837 and was incorporated as a toll road in 1848. This was the Van Pelt Hotel, which was built in 1854. In 1859, he sold it to John McFadden, who had a general store in the building and also operated a tannery. He later moved to Austin, where he operated a stave and heading mill. There were a number of other stores, but Worcestertown's problems didn't really occur because of Austin, but it was because of the Ohio-Mississippi Railroad going in Blocher or Holman. And that was the last straw. That's what killed Worcestertown. Later, that was the Baltimore-Ohio Railroad, which is gone completely now. To the casual traveler speeding past Wooster Crossroad on State Highway 256, there is nothing whatever to suggest that there was a site here at one time. But the sign was put up, which we're very thankful for, so that people will know and be able to remember a little bit about it. Now, I've got just a few, a little dab of information tonight from the newspaper in 1880. And the reason being, I have another item that I really want to take the time to use. But I did want to tell you that the Township trustee in Johnson in 1880 was William Peacock. But now that was, I don't have the date on that except 1880. But in February, here's what the comments are about their politician, Mr. Peacock. Mr. William Peacock, our worthy trustee, was in town yesterday, which was Austin, seeing to matters pertaining to our fire-injured schoolhouse. We suspect he was electioneering some too. So I thought that was kind of interesting. We have some information from Alpha, and Jennings and Johnson were so close there now that these stories and things kind of run together with the two townships because of Johnson being formed later. So you may hear some of the stuff that should have been in Jennings, but it's so close, we're not going to worry about it. One of Mr. Jason Balser's horses, to use his own phrase, handed in his checks a few nights ago. Blanket your horses this damp weather. The second quarterly meeting of the Methodist Church on the Holman charge was held at Mount Gilead last Sabbath. The Reverend Lothrop preached in the morning and P. Rice at night. Both services were well attended. And you'll see in the things we're talking about tonight, people were just thrilled to get to go to church or some kind of service. Mr. T.S. Roseberry, our intelligent miller, has returned from Madison, where for the last few days he has been under care of an optical physician. Mr. Roseberry's eye calamity came on to him suddenly. In turning down his lamp, he gazed for a moment at the luminous globe, and instantly one of his eyes became sightless. We understand that he is much better since receiving medical assistance. The result of the primaries in March of 1880. Johnson Township, William Peacock trustee. He was reelected. Giles J. Rice, the assessor. Jeremiah A. Kinney, justice. George McNeely and James B. Tull, constables. Mrs. Jane Young, a very old and much respected lady, after a short but painful spell of illness, died on the 4th of this month. They always talk about how old these people are, and they may not be over 70, if that old. Alpha's only candidate was defeated at the Democratic primary election. J.H. Doty only got 10 votes. No honor was given to him to whom honor was due. So the newspaper was for him. Squire Kinney is having lots of fun. Just now, it seems that M. Simmons sued Doc Roseberry for the small sum of $2.50. After 2 hearings in which the 2 lawyers, Coatney and Wilson, did a great deal of blarneying, the case was dismissed. Mr. S. will take it to court. A fatal disease has broken out among cattle in this vicinity. Charles T. Redmond lost 1 and 2 more in very bad conditions. One of Mr. Alec Mayfield's largest cattle was apparently in good health, ate heartily one day, and was found dead the next. Now, so far, I haven't found what kind of disease that was. I wondered about mad cow disease, but surely it wasn't. But one of the topics that I wanted to tell you mostly about tonight is the Bovard and Young family. I know some of you have heard some about them. There's a diary that was written, we know of in 1859 that it started, but I suspect she had written it for years. We just don't have the complete diary, but there's great information in what we do have. The Scott County Library does have a copy. The Scott County Genealogical Society in the research rooms also have a copy. It is well worth reading. Now, you may see me get a little emotional in parts of it. Every time I've read it, I have. But the marriage of James Bovard and Sarah Young produced 12 children. Now, I want you to listen to how these children turned out. 11 boys and 1 girl, all born in Scott County. This family lived in the area and talked a lot about the Jennings and Johnson Township areas. Of course, at the time the diary was written, it was only Jennings Township. This was a very well-educated family. First thing, Sarah was a female, and she could write and she could read. That was not always common. Sarah Young was born in 1828 and died at the age of 60. James Bovard, her husband, was born 5 years before and died a year after Sarah at the age of 66. Both are buried at Wesley Chapel along with 2 of their children, 2 of their little boys. Their farm was about 1/4 mile west of Alpha Crossroads. Their children were Oliver William, and he was the firstborn to die. He died at the age of 13. Excuse me for a second. Marion McKinley, Maria Jane, the only daughter. Can you imagine? The only daughter out of 11 kids. Freeman Daly, Melvin Young, Abner Sinclair, George Finley, James Carvasso, Charles Lincoln, Morton Ellsworth, William Sherman, and Ulysses Grant. Now, you can tell by these names what politics they were and how this turns out. Poor little old James Carvasso, you'll find here as we're talking, he was real sickly and he had a lot of seizures. They called them fits, but he would get very sick and he died on his 6th birthday. The second son, Marion, enrolled in DePaul University and he graduated in 1872. Now, I think that's quite a feat for back at that time for a Scott County person. He also graduated from Medical College of Ohio. He only practiced medicine for 1 year, though, in Cincinnati. He decided to become a minister in the Methodist Episcopal Church, missionary work in Arizona, and finally took a pastorate position in Los Angeles, California. Now, this boy came from Scott County. Maria Jane later moved on to Illinois, where she died. Freeman was the 4th child. He also enrolled in DePaul University. He left for California and became a pastor at the Riverside Methodist Church and eventually worked for Methodist Church's General Conference. Melville also became a Methodist minister, and he served several churches in New Jersey. He supervised 60 churches when he became a district superintendent of Methodist churches in the state of New Jersey. He even established the Methodist Episcopal missionary work in Africa. He traveled about Africa, and he became the presiding elder of the Methodist Church for African missionaries. Abner, we don't really have any extra information about him. George, the seventh child, became the most famous. He attended the state normal course at Paoli, Indiana, to prepare for college, and he, of course, entered DePaul University. But he joined his brothers also in California. James did not reach to adulthood, as I told you before. Charles also left home for college but did not attend DePaul. He chose Illinois Wesleyan University and remained after graduation as an Indiana pastor in the Methodist Conference of Indiana. Later, he was assigned to New Mexico as superintendent. Then later, he moved on to Montana and was eventually elected president of Montana Wesleyan University. He died in Longview, Washington in 1930 at the age of 70. I think it's amazing that these people at that period of time left Scott County and did so well. William, which was called Willie, decided to get his higher education in California. He also served as a pastor in San Francisco. Later, he moved to Boston, Massachusetts, and served as pastor in Massachusetts and Maine. Then later, he became the dean of the University of Chattanooga. We don't have any more information on the adult life of Ulysses Grant. These men came from the Little Wesley Chapel and Little Scott County, and we think from the information we have already heard that they all were very successful. But now for the rest of the story. All 9 sons were college graduates. 4 of them became university presidents. 1 was a university vice president. 2 of them were editors, and 1 became the chief bank examiner for the state of Indiana. Marion helped to found the University of Southern California. These Scott County sons also made an outstanding contribution to the Methodist Church and the educational institutions they served. Do you suppose we have any other families in Scott County that have produced so many very educated men or women? As you will see, the great example was their mother, Sarah. The Bovard family originated in Ireland, and George Bovard left Ireland in 1810 and settled in Ohio. He married Maria McKinley in Ohio, and their son James married Sarah Young in Miami, Ohio in 1844. Sarah's father was Abner Young, born in Vermont in 1795, and his father was Gideon, born in Maine in 1760. James and Sarah came to Alpha Crossroads to live and raise their family. Now, I have not found why they chose Alpha area. I haven't found why they chose Scott County or this area. We are so fortunate to have this information in a diary form to know exactly what was going on over 140 years ago. Can you picture the following scenes? Monday, January the 3rd, 1859. Still pleasant, sun shines, beautiful day. I sit by the fire knitting and rocking the cradle, thinking of many things and wonder if I will be here this time next year. Wednesday, January the 5th. It's cold and cloudy. Looks like for snow. James Carvasso's throat is bad, swelled and quite sick. Remember, he's the one that has the seizures. James has gone to Mr. Hord's to stable raising. Catherine, Sarah's sister, is Catherine Sampson, comes in the evening. Mother comes out to see the baby, and George found them some better. At night, James went to the debate, came home with new ideas. Thursday, January the 6th, up late, the rain falling fast, the children off to school. I find myself still at knitting and rocking and nursing. No time for play. James is cutting out his harness while it rains. George Finley and James Carvasso are better. Here comes the children from school. Wesley Spear is with them. Supper over now, then they have fun. Now we have prayers and all to bed. Thursday, January 13th, this morning is raining. Isaac Sampson, which is Catherine's husband, comes for James to haul his corn from Mr. Jones. Gets home at 3 o'clock and it's still raining. I sew all day at James's fine shirt. Had the toothache, felt bad all day, quite ill-natured. You will find as we're reading this, and I'm not reading the entire diary, believe it or not, But she had a toothache a lot. She had a bad headache a lot. She was sick a lot with these headaches that I suspect she had migraines. But back at that time, of course, nobody would have known what they were. Sunday, January the 16th. Sundays are very important because that's the Sabbath day. A beautiful day and cold. James comes home, says William Foster is dying. I go to see him. I find him dying. The house crowded. Stayed till 1 o'clock and he died at 2 o'clock after I left. Quite cloudy. Looks like for snow. We are all well as usual. Monday, January 17th, cold and cloudy. We go to the burying and leave the children at home. They didn't say they went to the funeral or anything like that, the burying. I did not go to the grave, but hurried home, almost tired down, and get supper against James and Marion. Get home. Poor cousin, William, done with his troubles of this world. Thursday, January the 20th. Here they come, and not all of the morning work done. She wasn't too happy to have a lot of people coming when she was still busy. Looks quite much like rain. Elizabeth Redmond comes, and Catherine and Mother Harriet and Eliza Roseberry ate here. Now the Redmonds are Maud Roy's husband's family. Here comes Miller Morrison for a coat pattern. Now it rains some. Dinner's over with. We had boiled beef and turnips. The girls now go to Aunt Kathy Foster's. Maria Jane goes with them. James goes to Jonathan Everhart's for my shoes, but does not get them. I didn't go ahead and put in here, but when her shoes were finally gotten, Mr. Everhart didn't do a very good job. She said they looked like boats, and she made him take them back. But I didn't go, I skipped that part to put in here. Saturday, January the 22nd, this morning is clear and cold. I am mending clothes and knitting and rocking and trying to keep warm. James is hauling wood. Marion has gone to the post office. We are all well as common and feel very thankful for the blessings we receive and love God with all our hearts. Here it is on Saturday, January the 29th. Now we scrub and clean, bake loaves for the Sabbath. The Campbellite, which is the Campbellite Christian Church, meeting commences tonight. James and Marion have gone to the meeting tonight. James went to Paris today and bought him a coat. I received a letter from Nancy Petro, which is James's sister. They are all well, and I feel glad that we can say we are all well this evening. I have a toothache yet for company, sad company. And remember, they didn't have anyone to go to for toothache. As time goes on, James and the older boys go to many of the meetings in the area, including Mount Gilead. Sarah isn't able to go due to the children being ill. Other things she has to stay home and do, and she has lots of toothaches, headaches, and all of the problems of trying to take care of so many children. At times, you're going to see that she feels very jealous because she is stuck at home. And we can see that with people even in today's world. Wednesday, February the 16th, very rainy. I make some hominy. How many of you had made hominy? James is right sick with a bad cold. Still works at his bridals. I'm patching and mending. We are thankful for the blessings we receive. This world has troubles. Now we're going to be starting talking about the talk of war. Another beautiful morning, I go to Mother's with the children to take dinner on goose. George's birthday. James stays at home and husks corn. We are all well. The sun shines bright. The Methodists and the Reformers are holding meetings at Frankfort, which is New Frankfort. John goes to Lexington. In the margin, she has written, "When anyone looks at my writing and it does not please them, please pass it on without remarks, as I expect to tell the truth always. And reader, you will find some coarse writing on this page, for my pen is bad, the paper thin. When you find mistakes, please correct them if you can." One of the boys has the mumps, another one has chicken pox. James Carvassal continues to cry a lot. We haven't seen any problems with seizures yet, but he will be having a lot of seizures, like for 3 hours at a time. Wednesday, March the 9th, another beautiful day. Mother and Maria Jane go to the meeting in the forenoon. James goes to the mill in the afternoon. I go with him to see Mr. Isaac Mayfield immersed. Quite a congregation assembled at his house. Then marched down to the water with singing. Mr. Belser had the minister's coat on, and the minister had Mr. Belser's coat on. Now, what that was all about, I really never did get figured out. All went off pleasantly. Mr. Redmond looked through the fence. Perhaps he didn't want to be seen at a baptism, I don't know. Betsy rode home behind old man Griffith. I sowed some lettuce. She continues with the toothache, and now she has a bad sore throat. They had a lot of bad sore throats. Looks like rain. I commenced washing. She was washing the clothes in the brook. I wash hard all day, then go to Catherine's in the evening. The rain is falling fast. James finishes his oats. We all feel tolerable well, considering the hard times and having to eat black bread. In the evening, gathering the things in the house, for it begins to look like for rain. We all feel tolerable well, considering the hard times and having to eat black bread. We try to be cheerful as we can. We've never figured out what the black bread really is, unless some have thought maybe it was molded flour. Others have thought it was smut on the wheat, which can occur. So we're not quite sure which it was, but they had a lot of problems with just having the black bread to eat. I feel to rejoice this blessed Sabbath morning on Sunday, March the 20th, for the goodness of the Lord has bestowed on us through another week. But before noon, I am tempted to think my lot a hard one. She feels guilty for feeling like she's having to work so hard. I cannot go to the meeting. James goes to the reformers' meeting, then to class meeting, comes home just as if he had been at a feast of fat things. I must get dinner, for it is 2 o'clock. James and I take a walk in the evening up to JS and WH. Found the folks well. We come home. Wednesday, March the 23rd. This is Lovey's birthday. That's her pet name for James. He is 36 years. He was a cross little pet. Today, he must have some chicken cooked to please him. He is building a fence. Of course, we will try to please him. It is a beautiful day. Dinner most ready. Here comes the company. I am looking for Mrs. Tobias and Mrs. Maria Young and Mother. We have a good time. Only babies are very cross. We try to nurse them. The rats disturb their sleep in the night. She's still baking with black bread. James goes to a chapel meeting. Sarah wants to go to Gilead in the afternoon, but not able to as the baby, James Garfossel, is sick. Sarah is hooking lace and uses up the last of the black flour on March the 30th. She's so thrilled that she's got that used up. Thursday, March the 31st, 1859. When you read this, mind your stops and read slow and sure. I think those were instructions for her kids. Wednesday, April the 6th. More moderate this morning. Curious that I must visit so much. I go to Williams. Find a house full of sick folks. Mr. Parsons' family is there sick with scarlet fever. They have a house full of company. I come home in the evening. James hauls lumber from Mr. Belch's mill. Now note the jealousy in the families just as they are today. Friday, April the 8th. Cannot stay at home today, too fine looking, and the fever on for visiting. I take sewing and knitting and 2 children and go to see Sister Catherine Sampson, for she has the pouts, because I do not make a call at her house. We had a good dinner. Then to top off things, I have an hour of extreme toothache. Then I am not company for a dog. I am so ill-natured. Friday, April the 15th, it's quite cool. Here comes Mother on her way to Madison to trade her carpet. We commence shearing the sheep, but the air is too cool for that business. Here comes Maria Jane for me to come quick. Johnny and Edie had eaten some roots and are poisoned sure enough. We had a time with them. They come nigh dying. Dr. Griffith was very attentive. Dr. Mcclure was sent for, but did not come. Isaac comes and says John Horde was killed today by falling off the old stable. James is finishing a roof on my room. Sunday, April the 24th, is another beautiful Sabbath. James goes to Sabbath school. Me and Marion go to Gilead in the afternoon to meeting. Brother Reuben Rice preached a very good sermon. James stayed home with the children. And you will see if you read this book at the library, he started staying home with the kids a lot more. I think life was getting miserable. Friday, May the 6th, very pleasant this morning. James commences plowing in the Morrison's field. I finish washing wool today. Hannah Jane Phillips comes in the morning for a few minutes. We talk about her mother's sickness and death. It makes us feel sad and lonesome. Our dying day will soon come, and I want to be ready. She is becoming overwhelmed with all of the work to do. There is a muster at the schoolhouse today, and times are hard. Not much cream to make butter. In May, they are very short of food. May 31st, they ate the last of their meat. The wheat is beginning to ripen in June, but is mostly cheat. And I imagine most of you know cheat is just a weed. June 20th, they are having green beans and young potatoes to eat, though. So James is staying home more with the children so Sarah can go to the meetings. July the 4th, 1859, it almost frosted here in Scott County. The drums and cannons are sounding all around. She's spinning a lot. July the 6th, James sold 19 sheep at $1.25 per head to a man from Kentucky. July the 28th, Lizzie Trulock comes by. Lola George is very sick with a hot fever. July the 13th, James goes for doctor for medicine. It's very warm. Marion takes feathers to Frankfurt. The flies are so bad. July the 23rd, James goes to Marion Peregrine's to help thrash. Rain is needed. James goes to the Landon's mill in August and gets home with a load of black flour. Not fit for hogs to eat, but we poor children have to eat it. We have nothing much to eat. Times are hard and worse coming. Nothing to sell for food. Friday, September the 2nd, 1859, Mr. Green's little boy died last night. James had to go over, then to Frankfurt. I am troubled, nearly sick, so much trouble here below. Wednesday, October the 5th, we had a notion to go to the fair in Vernon. James commences cutting corn this morning. I spin, starch, iron, and bake some pumpkin pies. So then on Thursday, October the 6th, it's cold and very cold, but we're going to start for the fair before daylight. We're leaving the children in the bed. We get very cold. There's a heavy frost. Arrived at the fair safe. Saw many nice things, but thinking of the children at home. I did not see much pleasure. My head ached, and I felt sick and wanted to be home. The roads were good. The moon shone bright. We arrived home at 8:30 at night. Found the children in bed. All well. Then I wished I had took my time easier. She's boiling bark to color her blue jeans, burying cabbage, beets, squashes, and preparing for winter. Rendering tallow to make candles and sewing on blankets. Boiling syrup all day long. November the 14th, she's trying to wash with frozen water. Now this wasn't frozen water pipes. This was frozen water. December the 14th, James helps Pap kill hogs today. Monday, January the 9th, little James Carvasso takes a fit, lasts 3 hours. I am troubled most to death about him. He is very sick. Mother, Pap, and John, Mr. and Mrs. Griffith come and do all they can for him. John goes for the doctor, and James, oh, the mud, there's so much mud. 5 days later, though, James Carvasso was running around again. Sarah had a headache, but they were very thankful for all of the food they had. James fills Sarah's quills so she can write in her journal. Susan Redmond and Cass Young are spending the night with the children. Sarah got soap made and feels relieved to have good soap supply. James went to Paris and bought 15 yards of muslin for Sarah. Sunday, January the 29th, 1860, the Austin Methodist Church is dedicated today. Saturday, February the 18th, 1860, we sit reading till 10 o'clock. We have plenty of papers to read now. Tuesday, February the 21st, I'm 32 years old today. Been married 16 years, 8 children, 7 boys and 1 girl, but Oliver is gone home. James gone to Mr. Doty's raising the children at camp. I am writing in my book. The wind is moaning in the trees, and the hens are cackling. They were celebrating their wedding anniversary on February the 29th. They had been married 16 years. Sarah was quilting that day on her woolen quilt, and she got it done. James was making rails. March the 10th, James takes Sarah and her mother to Frankfort to a meeting. Brother Miller preached. Woodney Wigham's funeral to a very large congregation. Took dinner with Deborah Mcclure's. March the 20th, they had 4 young chickens. James was complaining of his breast hurting again. Marion sprains his ankle, and Abner Knox, which is Sarah's brother, stuck a pitchfork into his foot. April the 8th, Sarah is going barefoot and weans little Jimmy today. Reuben Rice preached at Mount Gilead. May the 11th, John Peacock has log rolling today and wool picking. Now the wool picking for the younger person in the group, you're picking out all the junk out of it. Newton Phillips gave Marion a fish that weighed 7 pounds. They were very proud of that fish. June the 13th, Sarah had 25 goslings, and they are eating her cabbage. July the 4th, Wooster celebration. Marion attended. Little Jimmy now has a swelled hip. Think of our air conditioning, as Sarah states, I am raw with the heat. And if you all remember back in the 50s, before we had air conditioning, we all were raw with the heat. Little Jimmy was having fits again, had to get up at midnight and give him medicine. August the 8th, John Wigham comes to take the census. Mrs. Harris died at 3 o'clock. James sold 8 bushels of wheat for 92 cents a bushel on August the 20th. August the 31st, Reverend Potts preaches Catherine Miller's funeral at Mount Gilead. September the 25th, James and Marion goes to Quick Creek to a political speaking at 1 o'clock. The cannons are firing on some account or another on September the 29th. October the 10th was a Wednesday, and it's a fine, pleasant day. Another young son, Charles Lincoln, visits us today. Now 7 boys, make some noise and a great deal of work. In the evening it gets warm, looks like rain. Catherine stays all night with us. Tilda Miller washes the clothes. She stayed with Sarah after she's had the baby. Toothache is bothering Sarah again. By October the 27th, the pain is severe in the tooth. Saturday, November the 17th, there's great talk of war nowadays as Mr. Lincoln is elected president. On Monday, November the 19th, James names the babe this morning, the 19th, calls him Charles Lincoln Bovard. Saturday, November the 24th, the papers are all secession news. Saturday, December the 29th, old Mr. Barney Miller comes for pay. The papers are filled with war news and secession. In 1861, the world is full of war. The Democrats and the Republicans bite and devour. I think the Democrats bite the most and the Republicans devour the most, don't you? War, war, news all the time. What we will come to, I don't know. Abraham Lincoln takes his seat in the White House next Monday on the 4th of March in 1861. That's all right, I am sure. Sarah is quite ill. March the 30th, the papers are filled with war news, but we are glad that traitors are few as they are. There is no need of any. God will help the right, and that right won. April the 4th in 1861. War, war in every direction. That is the news, the terrible news. What we are all coming to is more than I can tell. The devil is sure of his portion. Lord, remember us all. April the 13th, Fort Sumter was taken today by the rebels or devils. The latter sounds the best. Everyone talks of war. Indiana begins to wake up. It quits snowing. April the 25th in 61, a log rolling and a barn raising at John Peacock's. Help make a flag. James and I go, but wished I'd stayed at home because crusty words fell. Most of the people in this area seem to be for the South. The Bovards were for the Union, but you will hear where even the family, and you've all heard before that during the Civil War, brother fought against brother. You will see this family quit speaking to each other and all that kind of thing during this war. Nothing but war news all the time. People fussing and grouching everywhere. May the 21st, I take the children go to Mother's, but do not stay long. She abused the Republicans, called them thieves, liars, and everything bad. I thought I would come home and see what James had stolen from them. My feelings were hurt. May 29th, the ladies had a quite warm talk on politics, which benefited no one. What days of sorrow and affliction we are passing through. God defend the right and give us patience to endure our trials. June the 1st, 1861, the war is commenced. What will be the end? The good Lord only knows. Thou art a mighty God. Pour out thy blessings on the president. Set his heart aright. Give wisdom to our rulers as thou didst to Solomon. Give them strength as thou didst David and Samson that slew thousands, that they might put down treason and rebellion. June the 2nd, this is the Sabbath morning, and we are at war. June the 16th, what's the war news? All the time, more traitors every day. The rebels are murdering our men while they go unpunished. They shoot, hang, murder our men who have left our homes to serve our government. How long will this be permitted? We cannot tell, but not long, we hope. Debbie and Ethy are two mothers, but they are too fine to come to see me. Poor slave or black Republican, abolitionist, I am a disgrace to them. Fine rich gents and ladies, they look down on me. Thursday, July the 11th, babe not much better. I do not get much work done. James joins the muster today. And just imagine how we would feel if we were afraid that there would be war fought right here. Thursday, July the 18th, this is the day of the Battle of Bull Run. Wednesday, July the 24th is William stops a while, says he is a Union man. The 25th of July, what a call for men for war, going on all the time. What battles will we have pretty soon? We have to wash today. I helped the boys haul wood, then commence washing. Marion went to Austin for the papers. No more fresh battles, but getting ready for some. Mr. Griffith sent for me to come and spin sewing thread. I go in the afternoon, spin better than 2 cuts. Babe and Jimmy are better. The children pick berries. The katydids are singing. Sunday, July the 28th, we are tolerable well. James and Freeman go to Gilead to Sunday school. Maria, Jane, and Marion go to the schoolhouse to meeting. Tilda Foster comes home with Maria Jane. Catherine and Ethy come a while, then go to Mother's in the afternoon. They all look at me as they would look at a thief, because I am not a seceder. Monday, August the 5th, so much fuss about war, and so many going to war, and so many getting killed. How glad I would be if this war was no war. August the 9th, James goes to Austin for the daily paper. So they had to travel a ways, and a lot of times neighbors would get the paper together, and they'd take turns going after it, and they'd both pay half of the price too. Thursday, August the 13th, everybody talks of hard times. Wheat is 75 cents, butter 6 cents, eggs 3 cents, coffee 20 cents, teas 25 cents per quarter a pound. Pears are $1 a bushel, potatoes 40 cents a bushel, apples 40 cents, pork 3 cents a pound, and sugar is 10 cents a pound. We are expecting every day to hear of a great and dreadful battle in Missouri. Great preparations are being made. On Wednesday, September the 4th, we hear in town that old trader Jeff Davis was dead. The market stowed with peaches. Went to the courier office and signed for the paper. 5 months, paid 50 cents. Friday, September the 20th, I am at retreat this morning. Fine, pleasant time for visiting. I have a good view of the cars. Now me and Mary come home in the buggy by ourselves, have a good time. But when we come, here comes Griffith to tell us that our men had to go to war. How sad we feel at this news. September the 21st is on a Saturday, and we looked all night for James's captain to call him to camp, but to our joy, he did not come. James goes to Crothersville to a speaking. Sunday, September the 22nd, James got home alive yesterday evening. The Secesh was about to devour him. There was a mistake about the sovereign calling out of the home guards, and I am glad for one. Mother comes by going to meeting, stops long enough to wish old Lincoln dead. Monday, September the 23rd, old Mrs. Smith joined the Campbellite yesterday. Will be immersed tomorrow at the mill. Tuesday, September the 24th, it's a very pleasant day. Mrs. Smith is immersed today at the mill. A fight takes place at the schoolhouse. These Secesh and one Union man, of course. The Union man retreated with sore bones. Poor fellow, he has 3 sons in the army. Fine day for baptizing and fighting. All 3 good Campbellites or camel fights makes no difference. Their preachers leave them after that, got scared out. What will this world come to yet for fighting and lying? Lord, have mercy on us. Friday, September the 27th, how my heart aches with troubles. Saturday, the 28th of September, this is a very cold morning, up early to go to muster. Mr. Griffith comes. He says the Secesh is getting very strong in Kentucky. The war is raging and getting worse. We take our dinners with us. Catherine goes with us. The children stay home. We have a fine time seeing the folks muster. Most too cold to be comfortable. Colonel Maylock and Mr. Hill gave a short address to the soldiers, which was good. Monday, October the 14th is a pretty day. I weave 1.5 yards, then pick the geese. James helps me. He is not well, but he can still pick first rate. We have lived together 18 years, and the first time he ever picked geese. What won't the wars cause to be done? Mother goes by to the shop to get some shop work done. I set up Maria Jane's stockings for her to knit. James quills and reads the news at night. And on Tuesday, October the 15th, Marion McKinley goes to Austin for the paper. There's not much war news now. Saturday in October the 26th, a big muster at Paris. James goes, Marion takes the wagon and me and Maria Jane to the burying of Joseph Daisley. Tommy Jones comes and brings a letter from George Bovard. I received a letter from Nancy Petro today. Remember, that's James's sister. I go to Mother's. We get news of dreadful battle. Ball's Bluff or Edward Ferry on the Potomac last Monday and a wildcat battle in Kentucky, and the same day the Federal whipped the rebels. On Wednesday, October the 30th, Mrs. Stevens goes by. Mr. Griffith has a cabbage cutting tonight. Marion, Maria Jane, and Freeman go. I imagine that was an exciting event. Smelly, too. Sunday, November the 10th. Oh, how sick I was last night. Marion goes to Charlie Byfield's to hear from the killed boys, but does not hear. We think it is untrue and hope it is. The war is raging. No signs of ending soon. Many getting killed. On Thursday, November the 12th, I am too sick for any use, but have to work. I am so lightheaded, most heartbroken. Know not what to do. I never will be well, I am afraid. We are talking of going out to Nancy's, but I keep so sick that I won't get to go. Mother was here today, bought me some apple butter and had on her new flannel dress. They have a corn husking tonight at Pap's. James and boys have gone, and Maria Jane and I are right sick tonight. I write some in my automac tonight. George and Abby purchased them some corn, and James and the boys dug potatoes. They have 25 bushels buried now. Marion works on the roads until noon today. Wednesday, November the 14th, I am some better. I cut out sewing, thinking of taking a visit out to Nancy Petro's. Next Saturday, Lloyd Griffith comes to bring a piece of beef. I sew at James's new pants. James goes to Jonathan Everhart's with Jimmy's boots. Oh, how it rains. Up early, getting ready to start home on November the 19th. I begin to think of home right often, afraid some of the kids are sick. They're at her sister-in-law's. I am right poorly this morning. Cannot hardly ride in the wagon, but get better. We have chicken and kraut pie, cake, and lots of good things for breakfast. That kraut pie just did not turn me on. and especially at breakfast. We bid them goodbye, then we started for home at sunrise. Cool air, gets cloudy, looks like rain. Does come a storm, but we get home first. Yesterday was a day to be remembered. We went to Gilead to the soldiers' meeting, but the sausage was too much for us. I took my blanket. There was one more there, but we brought it home with us again. The devil is loose there. Today, Mrs. Griffith comes to spool and warp her linen. I hem my flannel and take through what I can. Getting cloudy with cool air. I am not very well this evening. Friday, November the 22nd, James starts for Austin, but we'll have to turn back. So here he comes, very wet. How the wind blows. The rain pours down. I start my flannel to weaving. I weave a yard. It weaves tolerable good, but I have so much work to do, I am almost troubled to death. Saturday, November the 23rd is a very cold, raw day. James starts to look for the calves, then hurries home, goes to Frankfort to the election, comes home late, tired and cold. We do not hear of much war news, but no battles for a while. Thursday, November the 28th is Thanksgiving Day. Maria, Jane, and Mother go to chapel to meeting. That's Wesley Chapel they're talking about. But I am right sick, very cloudy. Mrs. Horde comes and stays all day with us. James goes to chapel. Eastman preaches. I am right sick, not well enough to work, but knit some and get dinner. We get up early on December the 5th. I go to Mother's and take my flannel to suds out in the rainwater. And I don't know if any of you realize, probably some of the older people do, but when you use rainwater to rinse your clothes or something, it rinses out better than regular water does because it's so soft. I am right sick. And by the way, her mother had a cistern, so that's why she would have more rainwater than probably what Sarah had. Mrs. Griffith comes to warp her linseed. I get so sick I have to go to bed, such pain in my head. Mother comes a while. James digs some roots to make us some tea. Oh, how cloudy and warm. I am very sick. This is a pretty day. James goes to Wooster to mill to get our flour that has been there for a week. Marion goes to the schoolhouse to help fix it for school. The children go to Jonathan Everhart's to get their feet measured for shoes. I am not very well. I sew and darn stockings. Margie comes with James and Maria Jane to stay all night. Sunday, December the 15th, oh, what a pretty Sunday. She always feels better on Sunday in the mornings when she first gets up. This clear, warm sunshine. I stay home all day. Mother and Catherine come by this evening. Maria Jane went to Morrison's. We received 2 letters yesterday from the war, one from George Bovard and one from Josiah Tobias. They are well. Thursday, January the 8th in 1863. Snowing this morning, now the sun shines. The snow melts fast. We are all well but Babe. He has a bad cold. I sold Freeman's coat and jacket 3 weeks ago today since we moved into our new home. James goes to Austin today for the daily paper. Mother has to have turkey roast today, January the 15th, but could not come to the roast, was put off. The snow is 2 feet deep, still snowing. This was on January the 15th, and after last December, we're all familiar with this. It's still snowing all day. I go to Mother's, sew for her at George's shirt. James comes, helps me home. I wade knee deep. Oh, the poor sheep and cattle, how cold. The creek shall be high. Monday, January the 26th, another sausage meeting at the schoolhouse. James does not go. Saturday, January the 31st, Marion worked for Chris today. He went with John to sausage meeting last night. They think they are very smart. Monday, February the 2nd is very cold and the ground is frozen hard. James and Marion gather corn. Joseph Belch comes for James to go to Frankfort to a soldier burying tomorrow. Mother comes a while. James goes over to Morrison's. I go to Morrison's, stay until bedtime. James and Andrew goes to the schoolhouse to the sausage meeting. Wednesday, February the 4th. Oh, it's so very cold. This is Maria Jane's birthday. She is 14 years old. Terrible, exciting times. Fighting, brawling, scowling, sneering, fearing, and crying. War, war, war. Monday, February the 9th. This is Oliver's birthday. He would have been 18 today, but he is not with us to share our troubles, but is at rest. That was the oldest son. Tuesday, February the 10th, James goes, cuts a coon tree and builds me an ash hopper. I have to make soap. They made lye out of the wood ash. And you have lye to make soap with lard. Friday, February the 20th, James had to go to Mother's for Abby and Maria Jane last night. Little Jimmy gets very sick, has a fit at noon and one at night at 10 o'clock. James and I sat most all night with him. I feel very tired this evening. Cherry has a young calf. Friday, March the 13th, Mother comes to mind the babe until I wash. James breaks flax. We have 40 weight ready to hackle. Maria Jane is better. Not much war news of importance. The talk is more of men to be drafted. Cotton yard is 55 cents per dozen. These are times to try men's souls, and women too. Saturday, March the 14th, James goes to Lexington to pay his tax. Thursday, March the 19th, there's no war news of importance. The butternuts are getting very saucy in Indiana and Ohio. Tuesday, March the 31st it's a blustery day. James goes to Frankfort for medicine, then goes to Jones's, then to Austin for the paper. Mary Morrison comes a while. The doctor calls to see Charlie. Maria Jane went to the meeting, stayed all night with Morrisons. So much trouble. Marion McKinley starts to work for James Spear. 4 months starts tomorrow. They traveled so much to these different places, I don't see how they got any work done because it would have taken them so long. Saturday, April the 4th is a beautiful morning. Mother goes by to the speaking and James makes some garden, then goes to the butternut speaking. Dexter Mcclure speaks. Today received a letter from George Bovard. He is in the 18th Ohio. Sunday, April the 5th, Charlie not much better. This is Easter. We have lots of cooked eggs. James stays home with the children. The Gilead Sabbath School commenced today. There was a class meeting. Getting cloudy, looks like rain. Babe and Charlie are very cross this evening. April the 6th, it's very cold. James goes to the election to Frankfort. We spin and work at our carpet rags. Charlie is very sick. His poor sore arm. He has a chill every day and a hot fever at night, so evidently he had some kind of a bad infection. I cannot get much work done. We set a goose today. Not much war news of importance. James goes to Wooster with my wheel on the 7th, then to Austin for the paper, gets home late with my wheel, paid $1 for it to get fixed. Mrs. Griffith comes a while. I go this afternoon to see Ruth Young. She is no better. There was plenty of swearing. The butternuts think they know it all. There was some fight at Austin yesterday. Tuesday, April the 14th, it's cloudy. The butternuts had a meeting last night at the Franklin Schoolhouse, and Isaac Mayfield had a union one at the McLean Schoolhouse. Great times nowadays. The union men have gained the election. We commence taking the daily again. Griffith pays part and goes part of the time, 75 cents for 6 weeks. We have plenty of war news. Charleston attacked, but our men refused. Not much loss. What slow work we have. The rebels are very saucy. Wednesday, April the 22nd, we have lots of war news in Indiana. 2 Union men were killed in a riot and rebel mobs in Brown County. Sunday, May the 17th, war, O miserable war, death even with distress. O Lord, forgive our many sins and save us all in heaven. Wednesday, May the 20th of 1863, the butternuts talk largely. Wear them for a sign for old Jeff, devil. Sunday the 24th, what a beautiful day. Maria Jane goes to Catherine's. James and I stay at home all day reading the Bible, papers, and books. Oh, what trouble we have. I long to see the day of rest. Marion is a disobedient boy. He is off somewhere. Remember us, Lord, in our many troubles. And I had wondered if she ever had any problems with any of those kids. But evidently she did. Oh, how the rain is falling in May. Maria and Tilda, poor things, they wanted to show off fine, but the rain hindered, but they go anyway. James and Marion walk. We have news that there has been fighting all last week at Vicksburg, but not yet taken. We have lost 5,000 men. Oh, terrible, how many more we cannot tell. Lord, bring this war to a close. Saturday, June the 6th. The Butternuts are going toward the flats this evening with guns on their shoulders. Some devilment. I am fire mad. I am getting ready for gutting old Jeff. Sunday, June the 7th. Here we go to the chapel to meeting. Never can go without double trouble. Joe Erlinger is married there today. Thursday, June the 11th, I am trying to keep the boys at their books. So I think she worked with them at home to study, not just when they were in school. Tuesday, June the 23rd, great excitement about the volunteers. Tuesday, June the 30th. Oh, what past these flies are. We have a fly trap. I kill 1,000 and more, and 1,000,000 left to trouble us. And the rebels are all alike. All need killing. But I imagine all of you can remember how the flies used to be so terribly bad years ago. Now they're not nearly as bad as they were, but boy, they used to be bad when I was a kid. Thursday, July the 9th, we got news last night that Vicksburg is surrendered. Now the home guards are called and James leaves at 5 o'clock. Oh, how lonesome we are this evening. James is gone. The soldier's going to tell me James is in a fight by this time. Morgan's raid is in Indiana. Cutting up high, stealing horses and burning property and scaring people to death, and some they shoot. They are reported at 6,000 strong, mostly cavalry, thieves, and murderers. And this was July the 10th. Sunday, July the 12th, what a curious-looking morning. Oh, how smoky. Looks like the world was on fire. Morgan Thief has not been here yet. The rebels went through yesterday. Today, the Union troops go through on the hunt of them, 4,000 of them. Monday, July the 13th, we hear cannons firing. The rebels reported coming to steal his portion. What panic is amongst the women and children. Oh, when will this wicked rebellion be put down, that peace will once again be restored, the Union safe from trouble. Tuesday, July the 14th, do not know where James is hunting after old Morgan, the thief. I can just imagine how scared they were. Sunday, July the 19th, the old Morgan thief is reported to be in Ohio, with thousands of troops after him. On Tuesday, July the 29th, part of Morgan thieves have been taken prisoners. The rest have gone to the mountains. Hawkins comes to summon James on the jury next week. The flies are biting. Monday, July the 27th, the last night the home guards were called out to guard the roads. The report is more rebels sneaking about trying to get away. I go this morning to Mr. Wilson's store. James does not go to Lexington, but mows grass for Andy Morrison. August the 14th, now the drums are beating for volunteers. Now James and Marion go to the schoolhouse. I get to Deborah's at 10 o'clock, take dinner with her, then go to Edith's. Here comes Marion, says Jimmy is worse. I hurry home. August the 15th, oh, how warm. James is going to join the 6-month regiment. Mrs. Griffith comes to help me sew in the afternoon. Comes a storm of rain and wind. James joined the Van Pelt Company. Now he will be gone for 6 months. Sunday, September the 13th, James and I go to chapel to hear Frank Peacock's funeral, but the preacher did not come. He is sick. Cloudy, sprinkles rain. Sunday, October the 4th of 1863, this cloudy, cold Sabbath, yes, all day, the Copperheads meet in the woods up at Catwallow. M. Byfields tried to kill an abolitionist. Everhart's all drunk. Sunday, October the 11th, 1863, cold with a white frost and freezing for the last month. We are looking for stirring times this week. The election is to come off on Tuesday next. Lord, help us to trust to Thee for all good things. Remember us in these our trouble. James goes to the election. I go see Mrs. Phillips. She is better. I get home before night. I fall in the creek. Wednesday, October the 14th, Freeman goes to Austin for the papers. Have glorious news. The Union men of Ohio are 50,000 ahead or more. Good, good, I do rejoice. Shoot our old guns. Thursday, October the 15th, Mother gets very mad, won't eat dinner with us. Sunday, October the 25th, little Charlie Lincoln puts on his new blue breeches for the first time. He is 3 years old and he is quite proud. Sunday, November the 8th, now James and I go to Mother's a little while. We hear so much wickedness. Oh, that we could be good and religious. Still cloudy, looks like rain. On December the 9th, James is talking of going out to drive a team for the government, but I guess he will not go. And she pretty much told him when he could do things and not, and she told him who he was to vote for. Now, I don't know, because women didn't have the rights to vote at that time. So she told him he better vote for Lincoln or not come home. Saturday, December the 26th, James goes to David Tobias, takes dinner with soldiers, gets in great way for going to war, says he's going to volunteer in Jennings Township, Jennings County. Monday, December the 28th, he is gone to tune his car locks, but will be here. Here he comes to put his name on his paper. We have to get dinner for them. I don't get but 2 yards wove. What troubles I do have. I do not want him to volunteer. January the 8th in 1864, James and Captain Jim Tobias go to Andrew Morrison's for him to go to camp tomorrow, but he is going away to Madison, moving Louisa McCaslin. James comes home, says maybe he will go tomorrow if I don't care. Tuesday, January the 12th in 1864, this morning, some pleasanter. We go to Matilda's on the sled, but thawing all day. Our mare is sick. We stopped at Days. Now, this may be right around the Days post office we talked about last week in Jennings Township. Mother, Catherine, and Ethe all went to Debbie's in the sled today. Maria Jane went to Paris today with Morrison's to Preacher Morrison's. Now, this skips over to 1871. We don't have anything about when the war ended, which I was disappointed, but I guess I should be grateful for what we have. But she does say here on April the 23rd in 1871, the frost kills most of our fruit. We go to Gilead to the meeting at 2 o'clock. Now she calls James Mr. Bovard. Mr. Bovard and big boys go to Sunday school. Mrs. Bovard and small boys stay at home. Not in the best of humor, but so it happens always. Tuesday, May the 23rd in 1871, Mr. Hester comes and stayed all night last night. Get home by noon, bought a barrel of flour for $7.25. Bought some mackerel and tin bucket and a new calico dress. Freeman starts for Madison this morning on May the 27th with Malin Balzer for the Sunday school books. Gets back at dark. Boys and Paul works at home in the evening. Now you'll notice on one of the, and that's the last of our diary that we know of at this time. Supposedly the more complete diary and the original one is supposed to be in California somewhere, but we've never been able to locate it. But you will see on the far poster back there, we have, here's the enrollment when they were in the Civil War. Their widows, if they had died, or the person themselves could file for pension. And in 1880 and 1890 and 1894, I believe, that's in 1894 and 1890, and 1886. I was wrong on one of them. But this is Charles T. Redmond's, and it talks about how many children that are under the age of 16 at the time that they were filing and that kind of thing, and where they served, and what kind of problems they had that they would be, should get a pension. Most of the times it was chronic diarrhea. Over there on some of them, Jeff and I saw earlier where they were talking about bone fever or rheumatism. So I was wondering if that was rheumatic fever, but I don't know, I'm just guessing. But C.T. Redmond was also a commissioner at the time the Poor Farm, this building was built. And you can see it on the stone back there behind the back camera. And that is also some of Maudroy's relatives. Well, yes, Ernie's relatives, but she married into the family. There's other enrollment forms of James C. Whitsitt, and you'll see other people besides just the Redmonds. The enumeration of white and colored males over the age of 21 in Johnson Township, Oh my, I've went a long time. I have that here. You can look at it afterwards if you would like to. It lists all the men, especially. Well, it is just all the men. The, I forget what you call it here. The, well, I'll see it here in a minute. Okay. The voting register, the 1920 22 voting register is here. And you'll find that also back there in the back, and that has men and women because women were allowed to vote at that time. This coverlet that you see here on this door was made by Louisa Jane Wilkerson, and that's also Ernie Gray's family, and then the quilt on the back door was also made by her. So we're real pleased to have Maud Wright to donate those tonight for us to be able to see. This is a wool coverlet, and it is dated 1875. And is there any questions?
What was the mill they were baptized?
The mill?
Yeah.
I don't know
wondered
which
what
mill.
that was.
I don't know which mill it was either. I don't know if it could have been Doty Mill. They went to so many different mills, and then there was Lander's Mill they talked about. So I don't know which mill. It never did specifically say.
The baptism place, I was baptized in the river, and there's a road that goes all the way to the river, and there's a crossing that will take you through the water. The water's about this deep, because it's a rock bed there, and then there's pots, big potholes on each side. And there evidently was a mill there, and it would be a much better place to baptize than Doty. If you go to Doty, you get to the riverbank and you go down.
Straight down.
And so
And
they
this
couldn't
is what mill?
Well,
What
I
mill
don't know
would
the
be?
name. It's
Okay.
on the map at the very top.
Okay.
And I didn't even realize that there was a mill there, but it's somebody's mill. The print is so small I can hardly see it.
I know. That's so
And
small.
I think the reason why the Bovards moved to the Alpha area was the postal road went through Alpha, meandered around to the Charles Redmond farm, went down the fence row, and then went down to this crossing I'm talking about. And then there was another crossing up the Doty Mill road evidently. So the traffic, and the mills was what drew the people.
Yes.
And since that was the postal road from Lexington, we think, and you can still trace it. If you get out in the woods, you can see where the ruts are.
Yes.
And probably they wanted to be near a postal road. And Alpha had a store, had a post office,
Yes.
was
Yeah,
on
they
the
were good
Indiana
size.
map in 1950. So it was quite a little community.
And now there's just a church left.
And it's one of the biggest Baptist churches in the county.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Well,
Probably in its day, I went there as a boy, probably in its day it had the largest sanctuary in the county for Baptists. I don't know about the other church.
uh-huh.
Can't speak
Well,
to
I've
it.
never been inside of it.
Oh, it's beautiful. The Alpha Church has a metal ceiling that is extremely ornate and goes and swirls and has flower patterns, and they have repainted it. They had to get up on scaffolds to do it and lie on their backs like Michelangelo. You must go. If you haven't seen Alpha Church, you need to go because the old metal roof is still there, and it is gorgeous. It's a wonderful place. It's just, of course, I love it.
Well, it sounds very nice.
I have never seen another church in the county with a ceiling like that. The ceiling is well worth sitting through the service.
Just look it up.
And you will study that ceiling because I studied it for many a time. And the church is built with native stuff,
Yes.
the sawmills
Yeah.
and everything. But it's a fascinating area. Jim Peacock someone needs to sit Jim down and have Jim go over. I grew up in the Charles Redmond home. Ernie and I talked, and so I know that house, the picture's over there. But if someone could sit Jim Peacock down, he could give you the whole picture, and someone needs to do that before he passes.
Well, and we've also got pictures on the back cabinet out there in the gift shop, and some of those include the Redmond home and also the old hitching post, which Maudroy has in her backyard at this time. And it's concrete or
It
stone,
looks like cement
something.
or something. It's like
And-
a stone.
Yes, and it's got a vine going up the side of it. But we do have pictures back there that anybody can take if they'd like. So we made copies of it. We feel like that came from the Wilkerson family, right?
Yes,
Okay.
because Ernie's grandpa was a Gray and married a Wilkerson. And also, I gave you some pictures about Wilkerson Ford. Have you ever heard of a Wilkerson Ford?
No, there's
That
Wilkerson.
washed out where there's pictures up there. I want you to look at.
The
Yes.
Wilkerson family lived over, the ones that I knew, went to Alpha Church, and they lived over just into Jefferson County on the Deputy Pike.
Well, that road that goes there and separates Scott, or not, that separates Johnson from Jefferson County.
Mm-hmm.
You remember where Nora Arbuckle lived?
Oh, yes.
All right, now
Yeah,
that's where,
County Line Road.
that's where Ernie's grandpa and
It's only
grandma
about that
lived.
wide today.
Part of the land that they owned was in Jefferson County and part of
Yes.
Scott County.
Yes.
And here's this Wilkerson Ford bridges here.
And Ernie's dad used to
So you
talk
can look at
about
that when you get
Oh, I'll bet.
through. Can you see it? Are there any other questions?
I've got a picture. Did I give you a picture of that old gray homestead?
Yes, I have copies of it also out there, so people can see it, and we've got it. I think it's on here. No, I don't see it. We've got so many pictures. I don't see it. Maybe it didn't get on the poster boards, but it is out there.
Was Quick Creek a town? You said he went to Quick Creek?
I'm not 100% sure. The only Quick Creek that I ever knew was in like Finley Township area and right at the border of Washington County.
Well, Quick Creek runs, named for the Indian Quick.
Yes.
And it runs through to the river. It's what we always call Quick Creek, at what we used to call Green Mountain, which is on the way to Alpha, coming up from 256.
Yeah.
Well, isn't Quick Creek the drain for Hardy Lake?
Yes.
Mhm.
Oh, absolutely, yes. Yeah. And Quick Creek was the creek causing all the problems. There were lots of times we couldn't go to school.
Because of the flooding.
Yeah, we couldn't get out. We couldn't go anywhere. We were cut off. And that's one of the reasons that they put and it was flooding all that farmland. They did the geological survey of that area in 1957, and soon afterward, maybe that was part of the purpose. Of course, they did it nationwide. I guess they got the information because they surveyed the river and then built the lake, which has just been wonderful.
Yes.
Destroyed some of the history, but
Yes,
and some of
yeah.
the poor people, but
Yes.
I wonder how James Bovard ever farmed and fed that family. All he did was go.
Well, now I didn't read it. She didn't have every day
Yeah.
written down.
he came here with
And
money.
she was really writing just the more exciting days, I think, more than anything else. Because there'd be a lot of days that she would skip.
Hiding in a chair.
Is this the same diary that Janet Payne had?
Yes, it is.
No, I've got
Okay,
that.
because I've read portions of it.
Yes.
Her daughter did a
Yes. That's where,
project.
that's where I got mine from, was
Those-
from her daughter.
I kept wondering because it was full of toothache, and I felt
Yes.
so sorry for her.
Oh, me too.
It's
Me
sad.
too. Any other questions? Well, we sure thank you all for coming.